Hey, it's Jay, and welcome back to the Star Wars Chronicle. This is Chapter 7, where we're going to be looking at the next two episodes in the Clone Wars Season 1, Shadow of Malevolence and Destroy Malevolence. This is going to be taking off right after Rising Malevolence, as we see how the Jedi are going to take on this big Separatist weapon. So, let's get started with Shadow of Malevolence. So it seems as though a lot of Jedi fleet cruisers have been destroyed at the hands of the Malevolence, and Anakin feels that it's time to now strike back against this big bad weapon. He wants to use a bunch of Y-wing bombers to take out the Separatist flagship bridge, thus killing General Grievous and wiping out the Malevolence. However, Master Plo and Ahsoka think that this is too much of an aggressive strategy, so yet again Anakin is showing that he knows what he's doing, but sometimes he can just think of things that might get a lot of people killed along the way. But thankfully these two are trying to talk some sense into him before he does anything reckless. So while all this planning is going on, it seems as though Malevolence has taken out a supply line convoy, and after all the ships are destroyed, Count Dooku reaches out to General Grievous and lets him know of their new target, and that is to target the Khalidin Shoals Medical Center, where they send all the wounded, where the Republic, sends all their wounded clones to seek treatment. Admiral Yularen reaches out to the head nurse there and pretty much lets her know that there is a possible attack coming, but she doesn't think that they can evacuate all 60,000 clones in time before this attack comes. So it seems as though time's of the essence to try to get these guys out of here, because if they destroy this, that is, thousands of troops that they will be left without. So it's a race against time right now. So it is time to now put their plan in action, and Anakin and Ahsoka leave their Star Destroyers with the Y-wing bombers, and Master Plo takes his Delta 7B light interceptor. They're able to reach the Khalida Nebula, my apologies, after a brief hyperspace, Anakin and his Shadow Squadron. But Master Ploon is horrified to see that they are taking the Balmura run. It's too late to turn around, however, and they enter, I guess you could say, a nest, you could say, of Nebres, which are these giant things that it looks like whales, they look like gigantic whales. They seem to maneuver fine, but one of the clones' matchstick ship sustains a little bit of damage, but they are able to escape the nebula. But just as they reach the medical center, the Malevolence also gets out of their hyperspace jump and shoot an ion beam at Anakin's Shadow Squadron, and he loses about half his men. So now they have to really rework their plan, because now they're down half of what they had coming into this. And then they take aim, the Malevolence takes aim at the medical center, as they're still trying to evacuate the 60,000 clones that are currently residing there right now. So it's a pretty grim situation right now. So, as the ion laser, is charging up, Anakin and his men open fire on the blaster, causing it to malfunction as General Grievous tries to fire another blast at the medical center. This also damages the hyperdrive, which is preventing the Malevolence from doing another hyperspace jump, thus not being able to escape. In the nick of time, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Admiral Yularen arrive with more Republic capital ships, and open fire on the Malevolence, thus forcing General Grievous to retreat. So it looks like they won, and Nala Se, the head nurse at the medical center, congratulates them on a great victory. However, Anakin is very upset by the loss of his men, even though he just saved thousands more. And that is Shadow of the Malevolence. I'm going to go into Destroy Malevolence too, because this is the last two parts of one episode, so I want to just talk about it all at once. So let's get into Destroy Malevolence next. So during the battle from Shadow of Malevolence, obviously the Malevolence has taken heavy damage and is still being pursued by a bunch of capital warships. And, not being able to jump into hyperspace, or do a hyperspace jump, General Grievous needs to buy a little time, because he's pretty much fish in a barrel at this point. However, it's good for him that Count Dooku and Darth Sidious had arranged for Padme and C-3PO to arrive in the battle to be captured and kind of used as a hostage situation to call off the Republic's attack. because Padme was under the impression that she was meeting with the intergalactic banking clan supreme executive, trying to get another alliance member for the war. But once she, jumps through hyperspace, she realizes that something's wrong, and she's pulled into Malevolence through a tractor beam. And she's able to reach out to the Republic and pretty much say, I'm not going to be some, hostage. Do not call off your attacks. Continue taking this thing on. And don't worry about me. However, since this is Anakin's wife, Anakin calls off his men to think of a plan to try to get her out of there without also surrendering their advantage that they have right now on the Malevolence. So it's time to really think on their toes. So now Padme is on the ship, but Padme being Padme, she rigs her ship to blow up and hopefully taking General Grievous with him. However, he survives the attack, so now he orders all the droids around him to find Padme. And she's able to get her coordinates to the search party that's made up of Obi-Wan, Anakin, and R2-D2 to try to go find her. So they find out where she is, and they create a rendezvous point in the ship's transportation center of the ship. Anakin's able to use the Force to retrieve Padme because Grievous blows up her track. Not Grievous, one of the droids blows up the track. So if she kept going, she would have fallen straight down. And while Obi-Wan tries to retrieve 3PO, he's kind of hit by a train and taken somewhere else. So now they gotta go try to find 3PO. But Anakin and Padme's train goes into a tunnel, and since nobody knows that they're married, they try to share a brief, finally a romantic moment, seeing as their husband and wife. However, Obi-Wan relays the information that 3PO is captured, and now they have to try to leave each other again to try to go find where the hell 3PO ended up in this transportation center, all while being pursued by droids and General Grievous himself. So Anakin has every intention to go rescue 3PO, however Padme makes it clear that the hyperdrive is almost repaired. And this is not good, because that means that they can jump into hyperspace again. Obi-Wan says, I got it, I'll go destroy the hyperdrive. But General Grievous, kind of hears it through their comms, I guess he's hacked through them, and sends a bunch of droids to cut him off at the hyperdrive. Just as they're about to be 100% complete with the hyperdrive and jump into hyperspace, Padme and Anakin take out all the droids and rig the Navi computer. They hide all the droid bodies so that there's no evidence that anything went wrong in the first place. So that's their plan. And now it looks like Obi-Wan is about to go taking on a group of droids and General Grievous himself. So let's see how that turns out. So Obi-Wan battles with General Grievous and is just able to escape to the Twilight with General Grievous in hot pursuit. He gets into a starfighter and tries to chase after Obi-Wan. So now he's off the Malevolence, but the droids on the Malevolence get to starting up the hyperspace jump, unbeknownst to them that rig that Anakin did to the computer was actually for them to shoot straight into the moon. So General Grievous, in his haste to catch Obi-Wan, watches in horror as his warship is blown to shit because it crashes into the moon. So of course, while General Grievous didn't die, which is the whole goal of this mission, to try to get rid of such a big baddie, his credibility with Count Dooku is just shot. And so it seems as though they finally destroyed the Malevolence. And while Count Dooku is trying to scold him and try to figure out a plan, General Grievous just hangs up the phone, or hangs up the hologram, the transmission, I guess you could say, just absolutely ashamed that he let this big weapon that could have been such a huge advantage to the Separatists go. Just completely lost it. So it seems as though now that they've gotten rid of this big, bad weapon. So it looks like it's a good favor for the Republic. And with that ends the Malevolence trilogy. Now, the reason why I wanted to do this here is because, again, it's a continuing story arc, and I don't want to keep cutting with my thoughts. So now I can give my whole thoughts on these two episodes. There are certain dynamics that I really loved that were explored in these episodes. The first one is how the Separatists handled their troops compared to the Republic. It's made very clear that Count Dooku believes that the Republic's care and love for their troops, the clones, with the whole medical center, is a weakness, and they plan to exploit that, because one droid kind of pokes fun at the whole. It's like the stormtrooper logic, where they can't hit anything. The droid was like, yeah, I have yet to hit something, and General Grievous just destroys it. And Count Dooku's like, well, now, that's not how the Republic treats their army. And General Grievous is like, yeah, it's a weakness. They treat them with too much care, and they plan to exploit that. So again, it really shows why the Separatists are losing in this battle. Because yes, I know that every big bad villain and big bad clan like that don't really care about their troops, their expendable troops. But that's really why they can't gain upper hand, because they're not showing them with any respect. Like when Padme rigs the ship to blow, instead of, grabbing all the troops he can to get off the ship, General Grievous is like, get out of my way! I'm all for myself, and he gets off. And the same thing during the battle at the Kalita Nebula, he sends an ion blast to try to take out the Y-Wing bombers, but one of his droids points out, then all of our men will also get taken out in that, and he does it anyway. So he just sees them as expendable, whereas the Republic treats the clones as family, as valuable members of this cause. So that's really a great aspect that was really, really punctuated here in this series of episodes. The Malevolence was one scary weapon, too. One ion blast just renders a ship useless, and they just are just floating in space. Pretty much, like I said before, fish in a barrel. They're ready to just be blown out of the sky because it just completely disables everything. So it was really great that they were able to take that out in such a smooth way, and it really shows Anakin's versatility because, he lost half of his troops in Shadow of Malevolence, and he had to really think on his toes because now he doesn't have the reinforcements that he had before. So it shows his versatility as a leader in these fights. I also like how he's kind of taking Ahsoka more seriously now, because he wanted her to come with him to the Kalita Nebula. He wanted her to be there because he was like, oh, I'm sure you'll have some insight on what I should do. So I like that she's kind of grounding him more. I know I've said that, but you really see it happening now. She's grounding him into being maybe a little bit more reasonable because now he has an apprentice to look after, and all of these clones who are at his beckoning call, where they see themselves as expendable, they've made it very clear that they're not. And it's really great that Anakin takes that loss so much to heart, where mathematically, if you look at it, I'm not saying it's right, but mathematically, if you look at it, a couple tens of clone troopers, doesn't even equate to the 60,000 that he just saved from the medical center. But it's really great that just that small percentage really impacts Anakin in a way that if it was General Grievous or Count Dooku, they would be like, who cares? They clearly weren't doing their job right. They wouldn't have been, destroyed like that. I also really like Plo Koon and Ahsoka's relationship, because it was stated in the last episode, in the Rising Malevolence, sorry, I couldn't think of the episode title there, that Plo Koon was kind of like a father figure to Ahsoka in a way. So that's really cool that they explored that as well. And some of the visuals in these episodes were amazing as well. Like the knee brace were these really big, intimidating forces that these guys were going up against. Not really going up against, but just trying to avoid, maybe getting eaten, or like with Matchstick's ship, just avoiding getting hit, because these things are massive. And it was really breathtaking to see what could possibly be in space in this universe, because we never really get to see much in terms of how they go through these nebulas or these hyperspace jumps. So it was a really cool aspect to see that. And I gotta again give a shout out to the droids, because they have some great lines in this episode, like the guy who's like, I still can't seem to hit anything, poking fun at the stormtroopers. And it's just, the droids have such great personality, but poor 3PO, man. Of all the characters to get hit by a train and just transported through this enemy ship, it had to be 3PO. And a really funny scene happens where R2 and 3PO are arguing about oh, well, why didn't you find me sooner? And then R2, does his little beeps and stuff. And then he's like, well, why don't we just wait right here until Anakin finds us? And then just an elevator opens up and Anakin's like, oh, hey, 3PO, what are you doing here? Just to really, the timing has some great comedic effect as well. I also really like how, I know you could kind of see it as maybe a tired cliche, but how Anakin and Padme as married individuals, just can't seem to get a break. They can't show their love in front of everybody because nobody knows that they're married besides 3PO and R2. So I really like that too, how it's kind of frustrating. It's like you want to see them just be happy and be able to express that, but they just can't, given how no one knows about it. So I like that aspect too. I think overall, though, these episodes are, they're about, the Malevolence being a very intimidating force within this Clone War, but I think it also helps really divulge the two sides that we're seeing in this war, the Separatists and the Republic, and how they treat their troopers. You could look at it as somebody who sees pawns in a chessboard as expendable. Or you could see it as maybe some grandmaster in chess who sees it as, yes, I know these pieces aren't as effective as, say, your queen, but they are really instrumental in maybe forming a blockade or sneakily taking out a bigger piece that nobody saw coming. And that's a really interesting dynamic, because we've seen the Republic use their persuasion and their action to sway these other forces to their side. And now we're seeing them build up these clones saying, you can do it. You're not just pawns in this war. It all started with Yoda's speech in Ambush, and it's showing a lot here. On the Obverse, we've seen the Separatists flee in the face of danger. We've seen them be cowards. We've seen them not want to take on a challenge at a risk of their own lives rather than what their troopers are doing. And we've seen how expendable the droids are to them. They could just smash them and have no regard. I know that they're villains, but it's just a great juxtaposition on how one side treats their battle strategies and their utilization of their troopers versus everyone's all for themselves on the Separatist side. And that's a great dynamic that I can't wait to see explored more. I can't wait to see Ahsoka and Anakin again grow even more. And I actually kind of like that Obi-Wan is taking a back seat in this show. I thought that he may be like a little bit more involved, seeing as Anakin was his apprentice. But I think it's great that it's more focused on Anakin, given what occurs in future movies with Anakin. I think it's a great way to really get to know this character more, rather than just seeing it from Attack of the Clones to Revenge of the Sith. This is a great way to build upon that and eventually lead in to what's about to happen with Anakin. So, great characters are getting introduced. Like, I love Master Plo. He's like kind of like a voice of reason as well to Anakin. Like, you can't do that. That's way too dangerous. But I can't wait to see what else happens in this show. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about these two episodes. And again, it was a great trilogy of outlining a great weapon, but also great dynamics that are really being exploited here. And I'm all for it. I'm all about analyzing things like that. But make sure you guys stay tuned for Chapter 8 coming very soon. Probably within later this week or early next week, depending on, how my other work schedule conflicts with filming. But I assure you, it'll come out soon. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, subscribe. All that stuff really helps me out. And yeah, until next time, guys, that's a wrap.